Decluttering is definitely one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself within your home, but oftentimes it can lead to burnout or biting off more than you can chew, which really just leads to overwhelm and this constant starting and stopping cycle. What if I told you that you might be making decluttering harder than it needs to be? So today we're going to talk about just that, and I'm going to share 3 ways you can maximize your declutter results. So number 1 is to master the art of just showing up. This is going to help you be more consistent, and you can do this by breaking down a traditionally very overwhelming task, that is decluttering, into super short, actionable to-dos that you can execute on a day-to-day basis, no matter how busy you are. Because a big reason people fail at decluttering in the first place is they try to do this gigantic lifestyle overhaul. They're going from like clutter everywhere to like, I'm going to be the most organized and decluttered person on the planet, and essentially like too much too soon, which very quickly, really doesn't matter what goal it is we're talking about here, but for decluttering, it leads to burnout super fast. And instead, I just want you to focus on being as consistent as possible and showing up with your donation bag, with your donation box, getting 2 minutes in here, 4 minutes in here, 6 minutes in here. It adds up, and it starts to cast a vote every single time you declutter a few things or declutter for 2 minutes. It casts a vote for you being a organized person, being a declutterer, leading a simpler life, which is why I'm assuming you're watching this video to begin with. And then it creates this awesome self-improvement feedback loop. The more you show up and master showing up and get a little bit in, the more it reinforces that identity of like, yes, I can do this. I am an organized person. I can lead a simpler life. I've got this. And I often tell my students, if starting with 20 minutes a day or even 15 minutes a day feels overwhelming, then you need to do James Clear's 2-minute rule, which ties in with showing up, right? 2-minute rule. If you want to create a habit out of anything, he says to start with just doing 2 minutes. So if you want to write a book, you write for 2 minutes. Or if you want to declutter, you declutter for 2 minutes. And slowly over time, you're going to build that declutter muscle. You'll start decluttering and go from 2 to 4 minutes, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and you'll start to gain more confidence and create more of a habit out of it. The thing is, we can't refine and get better at our skills and better at consistency if we can't show up to begin with. And so that's really the beauty of that 2-minute rule. So I highly recommend you to do that if 20 minutes just feels like too much. If you're anything like I was when I was drowning in clutter, I thought I needed strategy, elusive chunks of time, 2 hours here, 6 hours there, and checklists. But what we really need when it comes to decluttering is consistency, belief, and sustainability, the art of showing up. And while strategy can be so important, don't get me wrong, I have lots of strategies I teach my students. If you choose a strategy that you can't be consistent with, every single time you're gonna fall flat on your face. I did that time and time again, especially when it comes to decluttering. So focus on choosing a strategy that you can be most consistent with. Number 2 is to put rules and guidelines in place. And what's really cool about this is you are gonna choose the rule for yourself. I'm not gonna tell you what rule to take. I'm gonna give you some suggestions. You're gonna put a rule and guideline in place for yourself every single time. If you use this method, it's going to help you get rid of so much more stuff. So if you've been in the decluttering or minimalist space for years, this concept has been floating around, this rule, I should say, and that is the 20-20 rule. This is fantastic to use when our brains just need that little extra push into like using a little more logic and feeling a little more comfortable letting go. And the 20-20 rule is this: if I can replace this for less than $20 and in less than 20 minutes, I'm at peace letting this go, and it goes into the donation bin. I have various students who change that price. Maybe you up it to 30, maybe you make it $15 or $10. So you can change that based on your lifestyle, your finances, your needs and desires. That's the beauty of it. And I also have students who end up dropping the 20-minute portion of it, because in this day and age, the reality is so many things are very quickly accessible through online means or the grocery store or stores nearby. They didn't feel very aligned with that. So they replaced it with, if I haven't used this item since 2021, and if it costs less than $20 to replace, I'm going to let it go. Or maybe you can make it the 20-22 rule. If I can replace replaced this for less than $20 and I haven't used this since 2022, the year, then I'm gonna let it go. And I feel so good about that. And I tell you what, this by far has been a rule that's helped me let go of so much more. I actually just used it the other day in my household and I felt so confident letting go because I followed the rule that I created for myself. You can evolve this, you can change the numbers over time, you can make it feel aligned for you. So let me know in the comments if you've used the 2020 rule or what your variation is gonna be that you're gonna stick to help you let go of more stuff. And number 3 is definitely hands down my favorite, and that is to bring a little fun and maybe even a little humor into decluttering. I always tell my students, decluttering doesn't have to be like the bane of your existence or feel like this huge, overwhelming drudgery task. So you know you best. What are some things that make you light up, that are fun for you, that you could use to pass the time, help you look forward to getting your 10, 15, or 2 minutes of decluttering in, whatever that looks like. So here's some examples for you. Listen to your favorite podcasts or YouTube channels. I hope one of them's mine. Listen to a music or audiobook. I do this all the time. And I take it a step further. I create a really special playlist that lasts about 10 minutes, or if I know I'm going to be doing a longer purge, like 30 minutes, I'll create a playlist that lasts around that time that is very intentionally upbeat and like uplifting. I'm not putting on stuff that I listened to in high school when like I broke up with a boyfriend. No, that's the wrong stuff to put on. Put stuff on that makes you feel good, makes you want to move and groove. And maybe even turn it into a dance party. That has happened more than once in this house. Turn it into a competitive game with you or your family members if they're decluttering with you. Now, my sons are 6 and 7, and all 4 of us, we are highly, highly competitive. So on occasion, just to make it a little more fun, we will race to see who can get rid of the most and the quickest. And I tell you what, we always end up belly laughing and just having a hilarious time. Another way to simplify the process, if time doesn't really resonate with you, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 15, or whatever, is to get a bunch of scrap paper, rip it into small pieces, and write different number amounts on each of those scrap papers. Then you'll toss them in the mason jar. You can leave that in a counter, in a cabinet, maybe not on a counter if you've watched my surface area YouTube video. Yeah, because that might attract other stuff to it. So put it up somewhere, and each day you can reach in there, each day that you want to declutter, you and your family, pull out a number, and that's the amount of things that you each need to get rid of, right? It kind of just brings a little more fun and like a fun twist to it. And I think it's so important to reward yourselves and think about and remember the progress you are making. It might be slower than you'd like, but it's also going to be steadier and more consistent. So your trajectory is going to be heading up instead of down, and that's what we want. And remember, rewards don't have to cost a dime. It's not like, hey, if we declutter our home, we get a Disney vacation. Maybe it's a movie night at home with the family, a bike ride outside, or maybe honestly, it's just relishing in a home that's easier to clean up, easier to maintain, and that you just love to spend time in. There is no greater reward, in my opinion. Are you ready to tackle decluttering without the stress, or maybe you need a buddy to cheer you on? Be sure to check out my 14-day declutter challenge at the link below.